Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason takes Manhattan. Actually, he didn't take Manhattan, but the city in which he did take in this film and how he got there might actually blow your mind. It's October 29th, and this is another episode of 31 Days with Tofer.A, and today is Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. Probably one of the most underrated entries in this franchise. But the real interesting thing about this movie is it's called Jason Takes Manhattan. It's the very first time that Jason is taken out of Camp Crystal Lake and he's brought into the city of the Big Apple, right? Wrong. You see, the original script for this film had tons of scenes shot in tons of iconic areas in the state of New York, ending with Jason being on top of the Statue of Liberty. It probably would have been really awesome, except they didn't shoot this movie in Manhattan. They didn't even shoot this movie in the state of New York. But why, you might ask? Well, that's because this movie's budget didn't allow it. Apparently, it was going to cost millions of dollars for them to shoot the scenes they wanted to for this flick in New York City. So they chose to do it in Canada. And if you've seen this movie, then you already know. The majority of this movie doesn't take place in Manhattan or even on land. It takes place in a boat. And that's because it was all shot in Vancouver, British Columbia. But here's the real interesting part. The boat they use in this film was actually borrowed. It really didn't cost them anything, but they had to get it into Canada. And there was one big problem. Vancouver said, no. If you want to shoot a film on a boat, you're going to use a Canadian boat. And just like the city of Manhattan, they didn't have enough money for that. So what they did to get the boat there is pretty funny. They actually filled the production boat with thousands of sacks of potatoes. And why potatoes? Because it was an import item for Canada. Yeah, they got the boat they shot this movie on into Vancouver by importing potatoes. I mean, I guess the potatoes had to have been cheaper than renting out a boat in Canada. Now, there is actually one iconic scene of Jason romping around Times Square and, kicking that stereo. We love that scene. That was actually shot in Times Square. That was the only part of Jason Takes Manhattan that was shot in the state of New York. And now you know the rest of the story. Listen closely, because it's time for your trivia code of the day. The very first Friday the 13th film doesn't even actually feature Jason, or at least the Jason we've all come to know and love. So the question I have for you is, which one of these films did Jason get his iconic hockey mask? If you know the answer to that question, then you have today's promo code. And I'm looking for just the number.